Hello, wonderful people. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to do part 167 to my random videos and random gameplay series. In the last video of this series, we got through the next 30 minutes of this Ingenuity video. We're almost done. Look, 39 more minutes remaining. So yeah, we'll finish this video soon. I think some of this videos are actually not even Ingenuity. The end of this video is actually me going through, like, showing you games we will be playing from my iPad gameplay, which, by the way, was kind of a lie. It's not technically a lie. I'm just deciding on doing something a little bit different for iPad gameplays. You'll see what I mean when we go on, and if I have time, I'll talk about it at the end of the video. And if I even remember to talk about it, it seems like sometimes I'll forget. You'll see what I mean next time, guys. Anyway, we'll get to the next 30 minutes of this Ingenuity thing. We'll see if we can do it. Let's get started, guys. Good news is, after we get through this Ingenuity video, look at how many of these, Let's Plays for Explorers of the Sky are there. There's a bunch. I think in the last video, the last 2 videos ago when I did this, there wasn't many videos. Like, ooh. You can probably see 1 or 2 on the side here, and that's probably about it. Maybe another 3 or 4, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think you saw this much. Anyway, guys, it's been almost probably, I think, about 2 minutes or something, so we'll go and get started. Let's get to it, guys.
So we can take the money that he earns per hour, multiplied by the number of hours that he works in a week, and that will tell us how much money he makes in 1 week's time. So multiplying those, we end up with $256.25. That's for 1 week. Now there's 52 weeks in a full calendar year, so we're going to multiply the amount of money he makes in 1 week times 52, since there are 52 weeks in 1 year. So multiplying the amount of money he makes in a week times 52 would give us $13,325. That's for the entire year. So this is a great first step for Landon. Now that we know how much money he makes in a year's time, he could use that information to prepare a budget, much like you're going to do today. We'll also talk about how decisions you make in your own financial decisions, how they impact your budget, and how you can adjust a budget to meet goals that you might have. So stay tuned. We've got some really exciting topics that will really impact your own budget.
With the memorial just 2 days away, Brittany's overbearing Aunt Sandy is never too far from the box.
We're going to continue our work with
Oh, good lord, it's 18 minutes. That's the longest we have so far. Let's go and get through it.
Let's get started setting up a personal budget for you. Now we're going to talk about the components that go into setting up a budget and how that budget can be adjusted and how we can set up goals and make sure that we're sticking to our budget. Have you made a cake before? Well, if you have, you know that you probably followed a recipe. And if we get off from that recipe, maybe you use 5 cups of sugar instead of the 2 cups it called for, well, that might be a problem. You might get a funny tasting cake. Well, there's a large similarity to setting up a budget. And when you set up a budget, you have ingredients, and you have amounts of those ingredients, much like you do in a recipe. And if we sway too much from that amount, we get more vanilla than we should, or more eggs than we should, or in our budget, if we spend more than we should, then our recipe gets off balance, and we have a need to readjust. So we're going to look at the budget today, and I want you to think about, draw the comparisons to that of a recipe. But this time, instead of making cake, we're going to make great financial success for yourself. So a simple money management plan, that's what a budget is. It's a plan to manage the money that you have. So we're going to look at how to do that today. Here's some ideas to think about. First at the top, we want to start by establishing those financial goals. So think about what kind of style of living do you have or do you want? How much money are you going to need to support that style of living? And how does your money look for you? So what are your goals now? What are your goals in the future? Maybe right now you're looking to save money for college. Maybe in the future you're wanting to purchase your own home or start some family planning. Those are all goals to be aware of, and they certainly have an impact on what type of budget you're going to set up. Estimate income. So whether you have a part-time job right now or you're looking to start a career where you'll have a salary, that's all part of understanding your earnings. How much money is coming in, how much money do you have to work with in your budget. Then there's also other sources. Perhaps you inherited money, you have an allowance or a trust fund, or somebody just simply gave you a gift. There's other sources of income besides that of just your job or your professional life. And then finally, estimating expenses. So figuring out, what do I have? Do I have bills? Do I need to pay back this loan? Is there money that I'm going to owe month after month? And tracking those expenses and understanding how much you will actually need to owe. Well, a great way to do that, and what we're going to practice today, is actually writing down those expenses and really getting a good handle for how much money are you going to spend and on what particular items are you going to spend that money. So we'll practice that right now. Take a look here. This is a weekly budget. So we're going to look at just the amount of money budgeted for income in a particular week's time. So we're not talking monthly or yearly yet, but just in 1 week's time. And we're going to focus right now on income. So here's an example. Let's say that Carrie here has a babysitting job. And we're going to fill in for Carrie the money that she has coming in. So for the part-time job, babysitting, we could assume, let's say, $35 that she'll make during a week's time. For yard work, let's say she makes $20. And for the part-time job at the soda shop, she makes $57.84. So those are all types of jobs that she has. Now the allowance, she does get an allowance from her family. That's $20 each week. And gifts. She hasn't received any gifts and doesn't plan on receiving any gifts, so we're going to say 0 there. And the interest, that's the interest on the money that she has saved. So she's perhaps has that in a savings account, and that's earning interest. So she's getting interest from the bank for being able to use that money. So let's say she gets $15 of interest. So knowing these values, if we were filling these in, we would get a real clear picture of the income. If we add all of these together for the total income, it's $147.84. Now this outline here can easily be adapted to your sources of income. So maybe you have a part-time job somewhere in the community. Well, then you can substitute the babysitting and yard work for a title more appropriate for you. And this is an excellent way to get a handle on your income. Now let's look at the flip side of this now. We'll track the same amount of time in a week's time, but now let's take a look at the expenses. So for the expenses, a bus pass, so traveling around the city, maybe going to the part-time job, going to school, and having that bus pass. So we'll estimate that expense to be $8.25. The lunches, so at school, we have $13.25. So we're estimating how much in a week's time we would expect to spend on lunch. And savings. So each week, this is a great idea to put away some money into the savings. So on a weekly basis, vary. They're different than the fixed expenses where we know we're going to have the fixed expenses week after week after week, and they're really not going to fluctuate much. But the flexible expenses, those could vary. So for personal care, maybe one week I needed to buy a lot of, personal products like deodorant, shampoo, toothpaste. But then maybe the next week I didn't have to buy those items. So there's a little bit of flexibility built into these expenses. But for personal care, let's estimate $15. Entertainment, so going to the movies, having some fun with friends. So we'll say $22 in this week. And occasional expenses. So expenses that occur that will not happen regularly. And that we'll estimate about $12. So altogether, with our estimates we have here, would be $80.50 for the total expenses. So now, again, you can apply this information directly to your situation. So if you maybe don't have the need for a bus pass, but you do have to pay for gas to drive to school or gas to drive to a part-time job, then maybe you want to change the bus pass category to that for the day-to-day gas that you have to purchase. So you can adapt these worksheets to fit your situation. Now, we've talked about tracking the income, the money that we're earning, and then also tracking expenses, money that we have to spend on items or bills that we have to pay. Now, we're going to start to put that together because it's one thing to say, well, yes, this is what I want to spend, this is how much money I'm going to make. But when you set a good budget, we have to have a way to track, are we meeting that budget? Are we meeting the guidelines? So it's like tasting the cake. If it doesn't taste right, something must have went wrong. We didn't put in enough sugar. We forgot the egg. So we need to check ourselves in our budget and see, are we meeting those guidelines that we set up? So in this worksheet in front of you here, we see a monthly budgeted amount. And then next to it, in the column, next to it says actual amount. So take a look at those. So the monthly budgeted amount and the actual amount. So the actual amount represents how much what you actually either received in income or how much you had to spend in expenses. So it's tracking what you estimate, what you set up the budget for, and then how much did you actually spend or did you actually earn. So it's a good way of checking, did we follow the budget? So let's scan down and see where we either maybe met the budget or maybe we fell short or went a little too far. So under the income, we had budgeted to earn $1,050 and ended up earning $1,100. So that means we ended up getting a little bit more than what we estimated. So that's always good news. Now the interest income stayed the same. So the income subtotal is just $50 more than what we set up on the budget. So now under the expenses, we see the taxes were a little bit less, the actual amount than what we budgeted. Rent, we budgeted $300 but ended up spending $325 on rent. So you can see a difference there. We ended up spending a little bit more than what we budgeted. And as we scan down utilities, we came in a little bit under what we budgeted at $80. Food, we're pretty close. Budgeted $100, but spent a little bit more, $110. And then clothing, we budgeted $65, but made a smart move here. Ended up not spending any money on clothing that month. So that's $65 that we thought would spend in the budget, but ended up not. So that's a good
check
way,
on my iPad and tablet.
Example, to give some breathing room in the budget. We'll have $65 extra that now we can either reallocate into another part of our budget or perhaps put away and save for a rainy day. Now, entertainment, we budgeted $42, spent a little bit more. So maybe went to see an extra movie or had some dinner with friends. And then miscellaneous category, so some of the expenses that maybe we didn't think of right now but certainly came up, and we spent a little bit more in that category as well. So we see for the expenses, overall we budgeted $977, but then actually ended up spending $961. So that's great news. That means that we didn't spend quite as much as we budgeted. So we, again, got a little wiggle room there. So net income, that means taking the money that you had coming in, the money you made, your income, in this case interest, income from anywhere, gifts, trust fund, inheritance, anything like that, and then subtracting the expenses. So we see the net income that we budgeted here was $123, but we ended up with more net income, $189. So again, we've got some choices to make here. We could put that extra money away and save it for an unexpected expense down the road, or we could revamp our budget a little bit to maybe up one of the categories that we wanted more, like food. Maybe we wanted to spend a little bit more on food. So these are all great choices that you really want to think about and why it's good to set up a budget and track whether you're actually meeting that budget. Now take a look at this one. Now here's a yearly budget. So this is over the grand scope of a year. So not just a week, not just a month, but over the course of an entire year. Now within this budget, this is a good way to give you an overall picture. And there's a couple of ways that you could fill in a yearly budget. So let's say I was tracking for maybe a year coming up in the future here. So let's say I was budgeting for 2015. And I go through and I track income, expenses, and then the net income at the end. This gives a rough idea of the whole scope of the year, how much we expect to earn, how much we expect to pay in our expenses. Now, one way you can track this is to keep track of how much you spend monthly. So, for example, if I make $5,000 each month, then I could multiply that monthly value times 12 to get the entire year's salary. Or if I spend, let's say, $50 a month on gas money, I could multiply that by 12 to get the amount of gas money I spend over the entire year. So that's one way to get the values for this budget. You could also just keep track of your expenses for an entire year and really do a thorough job of knowing how much money you earn, how much money you spend, and record that way. That's another way that you can come up with these values. Now, as we look at a yearly budget, it's important to take the values from the yearly budget and apply those to how much money you need to set aside each month. So take a look at our chart here. For renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance, here's the approximate annual cost. So how much the insurance company is going to charge you for the insurance. To figure out how much we need to put aside each month in our budget, we could divide $1,224 by 12. That would give us $102. So we know when we set up our budget that we need to set aside $102 every month. Same thing for the rest of the categories. Medical expenses, $396 divided by 12. That gives us $33. So we know every month we need to set aside $33 to cover medical expenses. So taking a look at the income and expenses you have in a full year, and then dividing that by 12 to break it down into monthly categories, or even break it down further, divide by 52, since there's 52 weeks in a year, and it really helps you stay on track with your budget. Now here we're going to help Brianna. She makes $1,500 per month, so that we know, that's her income, her wages. The rent on our small apartment is $400 per month. So we know that part as well. I'm going to fill that in here. But now she wants to set up a monthly budget for herself. So we're going to help her do that with some estimates from what we've learned so far. So her wages are $1,500. We certainly don't want her to spend more money than she has. So let's be careful when we fill these in. Taxes, let's say $175. So taxes on income, property tax, utilities. So let's plan for $90 each month. Food, let's say $100 each month. Clothing, Brianna likes to go shopping, so we better budget some money in there for clothing. Entertainment, $43. And then let's do miscellaneous other, $32 in case something comes up that she needs to spend money on. So for the income total, that was $1,500. And for the expenses subtotal, that was $900. So when we subtract $1,500 minus the $900 in expenses, that leaves Brianna with $600 as net income. So that we gave her plenty of room there with that budget to put some money away, maybe to save for college, or maybe to save for something else that Brianna wants to purchase, or money we can put back into the budget and allow Brianna to make some different choices in spending. So we're on track for setting up great budgets. Now stay tuned, because we're going to continue our work with setting up your very own budget.
That was too long of a video. I was sitting there trying to think something to do. I think at the point where it's going to get this long now, but it just made less than per video. I mean, it's 1:16 now. I'm planning on stopping around 1:30. So by the time that's over, we're going to stop anyway. So yeah.
Welcome.
Okay, it's only 9 minutes. Good. Thank God. 9 minutes for this one, guys. Ain't that long.
Welcome back. Now let's take a look at how spending and decisions about what we actually spend our money on, our expenses, how that's impacted by the income. So what kind of changes might we have to look for? Well, to help us think through that, we're going to first look at the steps that we're going to take in setting up the budget. So first off, you want to analyze where your spending and your expenses are right now. And also the income. Where's your income at right now in your current situation? So think about how much money are you making? What do you spend your money on? And you want to be careful there, because expenses, we can sometimes underestimate our expenses, that the money just flies out of our budget quickly. So you want to track your spending. You could do that by either saving receipts, or when you get home, right away write down how much you spent before you forget. If you put it in writing or save the documentation, it helps get a much more accurate picture of how much you're spending. You might also need to find ways to adjust the income. Can you perhaps work more hours? Or could you find a job that allows you to make more money? So these choices sometimes come up in setting up our budget. Secondly, put the budget into action. So keeping great records, tracking, here was the amount I budgeted, here's what I actually spent. So keep those good records. And then a money management system. So do I have to cut back, or do I have to find more income? Okay, addressing those issues. And then finally, evaluating the budget and make adjustments as necessary. So if you see there's something that needs to change, maybe there's not enough money to cover an expense that you had, or maybe an unexpected expense, make sure that the plan works. And if there is a problem, how can you make up the difference? If you're spending more than you have to spend than your income, something has to change. So you want to think about, did you reach your goals? You wanted to save this amount of money to be able to purchase this item. Well, did you meet that goal? If not, then let's look back and see what we need to readjust. Now here's an example of a budget, and we're looking at a monthly budget here. So we've got, again, in our columns, the middle column here is the monthly budgeted amount. So that's what we're planning for income and expenses. But on the right is the actual amount, so what we actually earn and what we actually spend. So here's a really critical decision. Now put yourself in the shoes here of this example. You were expecting to make $1,050 every month for your wages. But something happened. Maybe your hours got cut back at work, or you had to change to a different position, and you're not making that amount anymore. Now you're only making $600 every month. That's a big change. Now, luckily, having a good budget set up will allow you to have a great tool for making adjustments. So as we scan down the budget, with the $600 income, we will have a negative net income. We'll actually have a negative $158 worth of our net income. So that's a problem, that we do not have that money to spend. So we need to make adjustments. So the first thing we want to do, let's look at our expenses and see if perhaps we can slice away some of those expenses we had. Well, here's one here, entertainment. Entertainment was $68 under the actual amount. That's quite a bit. Maybe we could cut back and not go to the movies as much, or maybe we don't need to go to the concert, or we don't need to spend quite as much money on the entertainment. So that's a real flexible amount there that we could cut back on. Clothing. Now, we didn't spend any money on clothing, so that was smart. We definitely cut back there. Now, we still need to cut some money. Utilities are pretty set. If you're going to live somewhere, you're going to have to pay utilities. So maybe something else we consider. Here we have rent, $325 worth of rent. Maybe to get yourself, your feet back planted again and get turned around in your budget, maybe we need to live at home for a little bit. Save that money on rent. So living at home would eliminate the rent and the $80 utility bill. So that would certainly help out on the budget and help balance back out with our loss of income. So there's really some tough choices that you might have to make on your budget. But the great part is actually having the budget set up so that you will be able to make those changes. As we said, you really need to balance the income and the expenses. And if it gets out of balance and your expenses become too much, more than your income, then we have a problem. We have to readjust the budget. So take a look at another budget here. This time, Megan is hours at the Sandwich Shack. So we see here in the problem, there's $600 per month. Okay, instead of the $1,050 she was making previously. So what decisions can she make about her spending? So we see that here reflected in the budget. We're making $1,050. Now she's only making $600. So let's help her out. Taxes, there's not much we're going to be able to do about the tax. That will have to stay the same. Now the rent, we talked about that she could potentially move back home or maybe move in with a friend so that she does not have to pay the rent. So let's take the rent down to zero and assume that she stays in with a friend or something of that nature. Utilities, that would cut down on utilities if she's living at home. Food, we could, maybe try to conserve a little bit, maybe cut that down. And clothing, certainly could cut that down and maybe not buy as many new clothes. Maybe try to wear what we already have. Entertainment could also be cut down. Go to, have dinner out one less time. And then miscellaneous, that might stay the same. There's usually some unexpected expenses. So we can see that adjustments can definitely be made. And so that's good news, and it's good to remember that in your own budget. Let's look at one more example here. Now Garrett, he's been really busy, but that's a good thing because then he ended up actually making more money. So in this case, Garrett was expecting to make $1,050, but actually ended up making $2,100 every month. So now Garrett has extra money So he's got choices to make as well. Granted, it's nicer to make this kind of choice, what to do with extra money, than it is to try to make up for a loss of money. So Garrett has choices here. Could, if he continued with the rent and living where he's living now, maybe he could take some of that money and put that into savings. Or maybe he could start to set up a fund for unexpected expenses. Maybe something comes up down the road, so he could save that extra $100 each month and put that towards more of an emergency that might come up. Or maybe he has a goal to purchase something fun, and he wants to put that money towards this new fun item he wants to buy himself. So he's got a lot more wiggle room inside the budget here. And check this out, he's got $2,150, which is a lot more than what he expected. So if the rent stays the same and utilities, that won't change much. Maybe food stays the same. Maybe he wants to increase the clothing. Maybe he wants to buy some new clothes with a little bit of extra money. Or maybe he decides to celebrate and take his friends out to dinner, so he spends a little bit more money on entertainment. So these are just many examples of how you can adjust your budget according to the income. So as income changes, it has a direct impact on your budget, for better or for worse. And it's just like the cake. If you change the ingredients or the amount of the ingredient, it might be better or worse. Maybe you get a cake that tastes a lot more sweet, you love it. Maybe you get a cake that's a little bit too bitter and you need to make adjustments. It's just like that for a budget. So I'm glad that you're taking the time to learn how to set up a budget. You're really going to be thankful you did. Great job today, and I'll see you again soon.
Alright guys, that's the end of this section. When can we get the next one today? I do got some little special for you in this video. I'm not going to do the games right now, but I want a little sneak peek. You know how before I start redoing the iPad gameplays? Well, I'm going to show you something. I'm not going to do them right now, but I'm going to do them in a little bit maybe. Or at least I want to show you something, get you prepared, pumped up for them. I'm not going to stop this video to do that. I'm going to do it for you. First, we start on the second unit, budgeting and wise spending, on the next lesson, which is called financial reserves. So yeah. Guys, we'll see what the special surprise I was talking about before is in the next one. It's only about 10 to 15 minutes, so yeah. Hope to see you when we get to that one. Hope to see you all in the next video. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see everyone for the next video. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a wonderful day.